So I've said before that if conspiracy theorists like Alex Jones, or in this case Mike Adams, ever actually got into power, you would probably see one of the most authoritarian governments ever come about because of their reign. And this is true in this case, because today we're reading from the 10 best and boldest ideas for President Trump to MAGA while prosecuting the real enemies of this great nation. So, now you've got to remember that Natural News has a very vast libertarian slant to it. So what are their suggestions? Well, number one on their list of things that Trump must do is shut down the Federal Reserve and start issuing debt-free money. Essentially, they want to end completely the monetary system of the US and start again from scratch. That is not something you do, or even do lightly. It is an insane idea to do. Now, I could do an entire video, and I think I have done in the past, way back when I first started, why closing down a nation's central bank is a bad idea. So we move on to number two. Decriminalise natural medicine and end the FDA pharma monopoly over healthcare treatments. First of all, the reason why these natural medicines are criminalised in the first place, or practice of it is banned, is because they don't work. And the FDA is a good thing to have, because you've got to go to the FDA, including Big Pharma, to prove that your drug is safe and that it works. And that would create an absolute wild west then, because you could say, I've got this magic pill that does X, Y, and Z, and all that's in it is sugar. That's literally what they are saying. And that is not a good thing. So, number three, initiate antitrust action against Google, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for their anti-American censorship and monopolization practices that stifle pro-American free speech. No. When has Google, Facebook, YouTube, or, Twitter done that? Look, you can set up, competitors, but the main problem is that Google's just too good. I mean, Mike Adams, for example, has his own competitor to Google called goodgopher.com, which, if you are a conspiracy theorist, you will love, because think of it as the search engine for conspiracy theories. That sums it up in a couple of sentences. And YouTube do not own the monopoly on a video making website. There are lots of YouTube video type websites out there. YouTube is the biggest. It's the best because it is the biggest, and it has done a lot to maintain that status. Now, if another company were to set up a similar video platform to run against YouTube, nothing's going to stop them. No one can stop them from doing that. In fact, the internet neutral laws, which, by the way, Mike Adams has argued for. He says that the ending of a neutral internet would be a good thing. Because we have neutral internet, Google can't slow down any of its competitors. if you take net neutrality away, all of a sudden they are free to do so. But of course, Mike Adams is an idiot. Oh, and I love this one. Arrest the mayors of sanctuary cities who refuse to recognise immigration law. So basically, sanctuary cities that basically refuse to impose immigration law because there are so many immigrants there to begin with, and because the US has a ridiculous, immigration laws to begin with, I think. This would be ridiculous. And then the reason say they must end it is because all the sanctuary cities are mass lawless hellholes. I can guarantee you that's probably not the case. And of course, this wouldn't be a list, an anti-liberal list, if it didn't mention George Soros. So number 5 is declare George Soros a funding source for international terrorism and issue a warrant for his arrest. So, if you don't know who George Soros is, basically George Soros is a millionaire, or billionaire shall we say, who, instead of following the norm of funding, conservatives and Republicans and basically protectionism of their own money, George Soros promotes leftist causes and believes in leftist values. He is a massive target for not only guys like, as in this case, Mike Adams, but here's the thing. They've made this claim that he funds international terrorism. When has he ever funded international terrorism? You've made this claim, but you don't back it up with any evidence. Now, George Soros won't go around suing everyone for wrongful information, but you're open to defamation. You've called him a guy who funds international terrorism. And then, this is the best one. Reactivate the House Un-American Activities Committee and start arresting seditious traitors in left-wing media who actively conspire to undermine America. So, basically you want to go back to the McCarthy age and start witch hunts again. Good job. I don't have to explain why that's a bad idea. Number 7 is initiate a criminal investigation into the CDC and its criminal collusion with the vaccine industry to poison America's children with brain-damaging mercury. Mercury hasn't been in vaccines since about 1993. But of course, this is natural news, so the truth doesn't matter. Number 8. Initiate antitrust investigations into Monsanto and its prosecution of farmers, scientists and journalists who question its dangerous monopolies over food, seeds and agrochemicals. Monsanto is a favourite beating horse for both the left and the right, when in reality there are just loads of different agrochemical companies out there. They are just the, shall we say, the dead horse, and just people like to beat it. Monsanto have done a lot of good. They produce a lot of stuff, and a lot of these accusations levelled against Monsanto are just flat out wrong from a science perspective. Again, the vast majority of scientists say that GMOs are fine. Now, a journalist is fine to write an anti-GMO piece. The problem is he'd be wrong. And that's what Mike Adams is pissed off about, because there are plenty of people out there who have written articles basically slamming and ripping apart the anti-Monsanto articles for good reason. They're basically a bag of lies. And then this is another ridiculous one. Defund the NPR and PBS. Stop using taxpayer money to fund hate-filled left-wing propaganda. So, I love it. Let's just go after the, a public access TV station who, by law, has to give equal time to both the left and the right, and yet we're going to go after them because apparently they favour the left over the right. Why not just say, hey, you're favouring the left over the right, you've got to give us equal time? Now, I'm not sure, 100% sure if that is an actual thing with the American broadcasting system, but I'm pretty sure it is. But yeah, that will be another stupid thing to do, because then if you defund a public broadcasting service, all you are left with are the big monopolies. And only just a few sentences ago, you were going after Google for running a monopoly. Why are you not going after, people like Fox, who clearly have a right-wing bias, very clearly, and you're fine with them having that monopoly? But if it's a left-wing monopoly, or they have a left-wing viewpoint, then can't have that. And finally, number 10. This is the best one. Pardon the Oregon ranchers and journalists like Pete Santilli, who were unjustifiably imprisoned by the Obama regime, colluding with Harry Reid and the corrupt BLM. So basically, only a couple of moments ago you were saying we should go after George Soros for supposedly funding terrorism, but now people who are actually terrorists who occupied a government building, something which only last week you were saying that the left are going to do this and that this is a bad thing because they were going to, do a coup. For some reason, when it's right-wing terrorists, you don't have a problem with this. And I'm like, what? Just no. It's a terrifying worldview sometimes to look into what these guys think actually politically, and when it's often a different viewpoint, particularly left or right, particularly when it's these alternative, Natural News portrays itself as the alternative news wing and is not fake news, but as I've proved quite recently, they are 100% fake news. Because here's the thing, people, you've got to learn. News sites like this, Breitbart, whatever, the alternative news sites, all have a bias. A lot of them don't admit they have a bias. Like, Breitbart is evidently right-wing, but they don't admit they're right-wing. Young Turks is, on the left, but they freely admit that. They don't hide it. Fox News, right-wing bias. People are fine with Fox News being biased, but anything else is the enemy and must be destroyed, because how dare another viewpoint exist? And as I said at the beginning of this, video, if these, right-wing conspiracy theorist nutjobs ever got any hint of power, or actually ever get into power, they'd just be absolutely authoritarian. They'd pull out all these wacky, crazy ideas of theirs that they think are somehow going to save them from a globalist elite, whatever conspiracy, name whatever, evil, shadowy group you want. They would just create an absolute authoritarian nightmare. And the funniest thing is they don't even realise it. And yet these are the ones that are claiming we live in one now. Just go off the things that these guys have just said there. It's insane. And it gets even better because next time we're going to do the 10 things they should do against journalism. And if you thought that a couple of these things were authoritarian and how they were praising to defend free speech, well, look at what we'll look next time at just what they want Trump to do to the press and a real form of censorship and stifling of free speech.